Donovan Mitchell has to be one of the most explosive NBA players in the entire league, especially on the offensive end. But recently, he's been catching some heat, especially if you've been listening to the Scott Perry interview that he did on the Hoops Genius podcast. In that interview, he essentially said that the New York Knicks did not go after Donovan Mitchell because they didn't feel that he could lead a team to a championship. And while I believe that's true, it doesn't mean that Donovan Mitchell is not a star player. It doesn't mean that he couldn't help the New York Knicks or any franchise that he would be traded to. And I think a lot of people are forgetting just how special and box office Donovan Mitchell is. So I want to speak a little bit about that today and just make sure everybody understands that if the New York Knicks were to trade for Donovan Mitchell, it would be one of the best things that they could have done for their franchise. All of this and so much more today on the Knicks Digest. Donovan Mitchell can help this Knicks team immediately. Now, I know what you're thinking. In terms of the New York Knicks and Donovan Mitchell, maybe we're a season too early because he's likely not going to be traded during this season. The trade for Donovan Mitchell happens during the offseason. Whether that happens immediately or sometime into next offseason, that just depends on the Cavaliers and how far they go this season. So really, it's up to the Cavs to keep Donovan Mitchell. Nobody else. But, like I was saying at the top of the show, recently, former GM of the New York Knicks, Scott Perry, was on a podcast, and he basically gave some comments on the New York Knicks' pursuit of Donovan and why they ultimately did not go after him. And these comments led to a lot of fans basically agreeing and saying, yeah, definitely that's the case. But then they took it a step further by saying it's good that we didn't do that because Donovan is ultimately not great of a player. And I wanted to speak a little bit about that because while I think he's not a number one option and he can't himself lead a team to a championship, it doesn't mean he's a bad player. Before we break it down, let's see what Scott Perry had to say about Donovan Mitchell exactly. So according to Perry, what prevented the partnership from happening between Donovan Mitchell and the New York Knicks were that the Knicks were not sold about the idea of Mitchell becoming their franchise player. They thought he was not that caliber, and so they backed out. General manager, or former general manager in this case, Scott Perry, revealed what went down during the Spider pursuit. He suggested that Mitchell cannot carry a team on his own. He was a good player, but he needed more around him to win. Because if he was that singular force, Utah probably would have been in the conference finals if he were that singular force. But he wasn't that singular force. That's not a criticism against him. That's just an evaluation you must make. I love Scott Perry. Love what he has to say, has a lot of wisdom, has been in the business for a long time. I can't say that he's wrong. However, I think a lot of fans took his words out of context. Is Donovan Mitchell a championship one option on any team right now? No, he's not. He cannot lead a team to the championships. If he could, the Jazz would have been there. They probably would have never traded him in the first place anyways. So let's put that out there. I don't think that that's the case. But does that mean he's a bad player? Is Donovan Mitchell not a great player? Is Donovan Mitchell not a star level player that if you brought him to a franchise, he could immediately help your franchise and have an impact almost again immediately? Absolutely. Donovan Mitchell does not need to be a number one to be traded to this Knicks team to make an impact. Because he would probably be, if traded to this Knicks team right now, the best player on the Knicks. That says a lot when you have Jalen Brunson and Julius Randle on the team. Donovan Mitchell may not be the world-class defender that you want him to be, but offensively, he could probably show out with some of the best players in the game today. That's how impactful and explosive he is on the offensive end. Defensively, I don't think he gets enough credit. I think he's asked to do so much on the offensive end that he doesn't do that much defensively. I think on a team that had other options around him that could score effectively, he would be a more willing defender. Only time will tell because he has to get to that team first in order for us to see that. But I fully believe if he had other talent around him that was capable of scoring the ball like he was, He would absolutely defend the ball in a way better way than we've seen in these last few years. I remember coming out of college, he was a better defender than we've seen in the NBA. And I think he could replicate that under the right coach and under the right system. And maybe that system, maybe that coach is in New York. I don't want to shut the idea down just because Donovan Mitchell can't win by himself. How many star players actually can win by themselves? Giannis, as great as Giannis is, probably, arguably, one of the best players in the league. Can he win by himself? I don't think so. And if he can't win by himself, then why is that a bad thing if Donovan Mitchell can't win by himself? Does that mean because he can't win by himself, you don't want to get him on your team? You don't want to trade for him? You don't want him on your roster? That doesn't make any sense. The amount of talent Donovan Mitchell possesses, what he can do for this New York Knicks team as a franchise, the talent that he could help attract if he was playing in New York. He would probably be more motivated to play in New York anyways because he's always wanted to be here. His father worked with the Mets, worked with them for the last 23 years, I believe. Long time. So he's been a fan of New York for a long time. Always wanted to be around the city for a long time. And during the offseason, even though he plays for Cleveland, where does you find him? Where do you see him? Where does he end up showing up during the offseason? Let's see. New York. New York. New York. He wants to be in New York. I think Leon Rose wants him in New York. I think the Knicks want him in New York. And I think overall, that marriage is bound to happen. That's more of a when, not an if. And I just can't wait for the dominoes to fall into place for a Donovan Mitchell move to happen for the Knicks. Because I think it's coming. I just don't know when. But I know it's coming. Donovan Mitchell makes any franchise that he goes to better immediately. That includes the New York Knicks. We would be lucky to have his talent. I wish we had it earlier because as he ages, it's likely his skill set, especially him getting to the basket so easily, so quickly, so aggressively. I think that's going to wane little by little as he ages. So honestly, I wish we got Donovan Mitchell a little bit earlier because I believe that would have been more effective for the Knicks. But that doesn't take away from the talent that Donovan Mitchell is. And honestly, I would want the New York Knicks to go after him right now because he could make a difference for this team right now immediately. Could you imagine a backcourt of Jalen Brunson and Donovan Mitchell? They would run roughshod over the league. They would be one of the best backcourt duos in the entire NBA. They would light up opposing teams each and every night. They'd be a nightmare. A nightmare. You wouldn't want to see a backcourt of Jalen Brunson and him. It would be ridiculous. Donovan Mitchell himself is a problem. Pair that with Jalen Brunson? Oh my goodness. I don't even want to see that in terms of an opposing defense because that would be something that would be so hard to stop and defend on a given night. And if they both had it going, pick your poison at that point because I don't think you could stop that at all, no matter what team you are. That's how crazy that type of lineup and that type of roster would be. But I don't think we can talk about that right now because, like I said, a Donovan Mitchell move for the New York Knicks doesn't happen right now. That move happens in the offseason. Likely happens next offseason, depending on what the Cavs do or really what they don't do. If they get to the first round of the playoffs again and they get punched in the face again and lose, Donovan Mitchell is likely saying bye-bye to the Cleveland Cavaliers and he's going elsewhere. And the destination looks like it has a lot of orange and blue in it. And yeah, it's New York. And that's no surprise or shock to anybody. So Cleveland's going to have to make a decision at that point. Trade him or let him walk to New York for nothing. It's going to be up to him. But at the end of the day, Cleveland might want to rethink their position on that, especially if they want to get some type of assets back before Donovan leaves. Whether you want to believe it or not, Donovan Mitchell is leaving Cleveland. The only question is when he leaves. But as soon as any type of inkling comes out that he's thinking about leaving Cleveland, Leon's picking up that phone. He's calling, and he's going to say, he's coming to us anyways. Trade him here, or he's going to walk here. Do what you want to do, but you're taking a risk either way. And once that happens, that move is happening. He's going to come to New York. He's going to be a New York Knick, and I'm going to be celebrating once that happens. But what about you? Will you be celebrating? Let me know in the comments, because I really want to hear from you guys. That's going to do it for this episode. I hope you enjoyed it. Smash the like button. Leave a comment below. If you're not subscribed to the channel already, I don't know what you're doing. Subscribe to that channel as well, too. This has been the Knicks Digest. I'm your host, Troy, for this particular episode. And I am out of here. Peace.